So we have created the data model ORS base table, landing tables, staging table we have not created. So first let's complete this base object area today. Okay, in the base object area, all the things I have said except this in the columns here. Okay, I'll go through the properties one by one. First of all, the system columns. Okay, you can see there are many system columns that are there. For example, consolidation indicator, and there are many system columns. So system columns means they are automatically created by the system. So you do not have to create it, and also it's mandatory. So that is you cannot drop that as well. So apart from that, and even row ID underscore object is a primary key. That's a system key. And this first thing, nullable means it's very simple. It is nullable. So I don't need to explain. If row ID is not nullable, if you try to insert null into this, then that will throw an error. So if you want, you can take a log. You can change that. Okay. And this is data type length. I don't need to explain. Precision scale is for number. That is also simple. I don't need to explain that. Yeah, this has default is only for unique. If you mark something as unique, for example, if I want to mark this as unique, what I have to do is, first of all, I have to make it not nullable. So I remove this, so this is not nullable now. So I can give unique, I can make this unique, and I can provide values. Okay, so if it is not nullable, and what you say, if it is not nullable and it's not unique, you can provide any default value. Let's name as default or some name, that is any name if you want to put. And unique is for unique. If it is unique, then you cannot insert null. So these are very simple properties. Now coming to important properties, trust and validate. Okay, first of all, trust. What this property means is, see, I told you, you already know what is trust mechanism. Trust is nothing but a mechanism through which we ensure that we take the, when we create the master data, we take the best. So trust is the network, trust is the algorithm or the logic which ensures that we store the best. So the first step in enabling trust is actually selecting the columns here. Okay, for example, let's say for these two columns, what are these columns? Name and alias. Okay, for name and alias, I have selected the trust column, but for last two columns, the trust is disabled. So what will happen if I go here in systems and trust? Just observe that. Let me save it. If I go to systems and trust, then you will see that it will only display the name and alias. The status and account type it will not display. Just check it. See, the name and alias only you can configure the trust, because trust you have enabled only for the name and alias. So this is very simple. This option is for enabling trust. Now should I enable trust for all my columns, or based on what? Based on, normally trust, when do you need trust? You need trust when first qualification is more than one source contributes data. Okay, more than one source contribute data to a particular field, which is always, normally that is a normal case in MDM. Okay, and the second thing important is, even if the first thing occurs, more than two sources contribute data to a particular thing, the second thing is, if you feel that if you take from one source system, it could impact, I mean, let's say if you take it from source system A rather than taking it from source system B, then that will have a business impact. And who is going to tell you? The business person is going to tell you, or the business analyst is going to tell you that these are the columns for which you need to enable trust, because we need the trustworthy source systems. We need data from the trustworthy source systems for these columns. So trust is a very simple mechanism, and normally it is implemented for important columns. And what happens if trust, see, what happens if trust is not enabled? If trust is not enabled, let's say for account type, status and account type, what will happen? What will happen is whatever whichever source tries to update the base object will successfully update these two columns. For these two columns, it will depend upon the trust score. If the trust of the incoming record is more than the current trust, then only for these two records update will happen. But irrespective of anything, if there is any change, any update, you will see that these two records, last two columns will be updated. So that is a simple meaning of trust. And what happens when the trust, see, this is an interview question, what happens when the trust of two source systems are same? For example, there's a source A and there's a source B. Okay, anyway, I'll cover this question when I come to this step, okay, because you'll not understand now. First, let me complete this. Unique trust. See, validate is a mechanism. Remember, do not get confused about validation that you do in ETL Power Center or data warehouses in SAP. That is different. Here, validation means degrading the trust. Okay, so the logic is very simple. If name is not valid, and you need to specify the mechanism based on what name is not valid. For example, name is null, or you can say name like this, name like that. Okay, you need to specify that. If the name is not valid, then reduce the trust by a certain percentage, like 50% or 60%. Okay, so this name is null and this are both configurable, so you can configure that, and that has to be configured in the validation rules. So this is actually the validation rules is a supportive to the trust mechanism, or you can say it provides enhancement to the trust mechanism.
Sunil?
Yeah, Venkat.
So, yeah, I mean, validating, reducing or increasing the trust should be based on the source systems, right?
Yeah, based on the source system.
But we are doing it object base object level,
Correct.
which is kind of a destination, right?
But this is not
There,
this particular thing is not source specific anymore. This will be for all the sources. This validation rule.
I mean, you mean to say whichever system has got, those fields null, then those will be reduced
Correct.
to
The trust
60%?
will be
Okay.
reduced. Correct. The trust will be reduced. That's the objective.
Okay.
The main, okay, I'll tell you the main objective of this validation mechanism is to make sure that the best is stored in MDM. How is that? Because see, if the name is not valid, let's say you in your MDM, I'll give a very simple example so that you can understand how this validation mechanism works. So let's say in MDM you have a record called as Sunil K. Okay, so in one source system, let's say from CKR, you get an update saying that Sunil something like some invalid name. Okay, so let's say you get a name like this and the trust is 90 and currently your system has trust of 80. Okay, so basically this is an invalid name, so I don't want to store invalid name in my MDM. What I want to store is I want to store the best. So if you ask me visually, I will say that I'll keep this version, I'll not keep this version. So you understand, right? So this is a mechanism through which it is ensured that this mechanism survives, that is this survives, because what will happen, you are going to write a validation rule stating that if the name is invalid based on this regular expression, then reduce the trust by 50% or 60%. So the final trust for this row will become 45. So what will happen, this row will never override this row. Okay, so basically the validation mechanism, it's a mechanism to ensure that the best survive and the less valid or invalid, I will not say completely invalid, less valid, or you can say validation standard, low validation standard data that will not override your valid data. That's the objective.
Sunil, can you please repeat that example again? I didn't get that. Yeah.
See, in MDM, let's say already this data is stored in my MDM and the record is Sunil K and the trust for this is, let's say, 80. Is this fine? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
you get a update for
Actually,
this customer.
actually, Sunil, I have a doubt on that, right?
Okay.
Trust is something you use while merging, right? After merging, there is no trust. Like say, there is source A, there is source B, and source D, and source D comes from very authentic source. I say it's 90,
Correct.
and B and C. So while merging, you also write like that. What kind of data is being overridden. Say, from source A, I say if a null is coming, reduce it by 40. So now this 40 is looking for 30 and 50.
Yeah, that's
So
what
after the merge is happening,
we are
no,
talking
after the
about.
merge is happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I still haven't got to my question.
No, no.
After the merge happened, there is no trust, right?
There is no trust after merge. That's what is 100% correct. And we are talking about before merge only. This scenario we are talking about before merge. We are not talking about after merge. You understand, right? This
So,
scenario
I
that
mean,
I'm telling you is a scenario that happens before the trust. So this is a record. This is a record that already has a consolidation indicator of 1. So you get a new record from this source system with consolidation indicator as 4. Okay. So I'm
okay,
talking
okay.
about this record now.
So what I'm wondering is there is no 80 in our base object,
Yeah,
right?
you
I
cannot
didn't
see
see a
this.
column that's
Yeah, that's what. You cannot see this, but this will be stored internally. So let's say
okay.
whichever source system comes first, right? It will take the default score of that source system and it will store it.
So basically you're saying
See, let's say you're getting Sunil 10 score, Sunil K 20 score, Sunil KM 30 score. Okay, let's say these three records consolidate. So what will happen? This record will survive. So the trust of the current record for this column will become 30. That will be stored internally.
that's what I was wondering. If it stores, then fine. No
Yeah,
problem
yeah,
there.
it is stored in internal. Internally, this will be stored because based on this only the whole mechanism works, right? So this will be stored internally, and this will always be compared with the source system. So if it is the source system is more than this, it will update. If it is less than this current score, then it will degrade. So that's the logic. Okay. Okay. So Vamsi, this is a record that is already there and this is a I'm getting this new record. Okay, so what is happening here is this is Sunil K and this record is something like it's an invalid record. You can see there are many types of characters there. So basically this is either invalid or less valid, depends upon whichever whatever you want to stay, but less low data quality. So I don't want to store this in my MDM because I can see that this is a best version. Okay, so to ensure this, this is where the validation mechanism comes. What validation will do is you need to configure this. Okay, you need to configure this stating that if the name is invalid, that is you need to mention the logic exactly based on what, if the name is null or not null, based on that then reduce the trust by a certain percentage, that is 50 percentage, 60 percentage, or any percentage. Okay, you can never increase the trust score here, you can only decrease it. Remember, you cannot increase, you can only decrease it. So what will happen here, the score of the record already that is there is, let's say, 80. This is stored in internal tables, you cannot see this. Okay, I mean you can see this but not through the tool, you have to access the backend tables. So when this comes with 90, this will try to reduce the score because by 60 percentage, or let's say this is 50 percentage. So the trust will become 45. So the final trust of this score is reduced to 45 from 90 because it is invalid. Now a merge will happen between these two records. So what will happen? This is 80, this is 45. So what will happen? this will be the
Sunil Kevin.
current record will be the survivor, and this will never override this record. It's very simple.
So, yeah. Thanks, Sunil. Yeah, got it.
Okay. So that's about validation. We'll learn about validation more here. And remember, the first step to configure trust is to select it here. Similarly, the first step to configure validation is to select it here. If I select validation for these two columns, it means I can only create validation rules for these two columns. I'll show quickly because anyway validation is to be covered later, so that there's no doubt. So this is validation. You go here and you create a rule. Okay, then you say, let's say you give any rule, and what exactly I told you, right? Where name is null and all that, all you can write, or you can change the logic, or it's not null, or you can also check, do any kind of check, like a domain check where name in like this, or referential integrity pattern check, like, okay. So any kind of check and reduce the score by a certain percentage. Let's say I say 60 percentage, okay. And I'll tell you about this later, reserve minimum trust, because anyway that's not the topic. Okay, so that is about trust and validate. Now apply null values. See, apply null values logic is very similar to this trust only. Okay, I'll tell you what this option is. This option is very simple. Let's say in MDM you have a name called as Sunil. Okay, Sunil K, and the trust is, let's say, 90 for this system. Let's say 80. The trust is 80 for this particular base object record. Okay, now you get an update from a CKR system for this customer, and the name is null. Remember, I'm just typing it null to show you. Null means, you know, null. It doesn't have anything. So that is null. Just for convention's sake, I'm writing null. Okay. So this from CKR you're getting the name as null, and the trust is, let's say, 90. What will happen by default? You know, by default, what will happen is Informatica. What it does is Informatica always gives less weightage to null values. So the default property of Informatica is it will reduce the trust score to something like 30-40. That will happen internally and it is automatic. Okay, so this will happen automatically internally, so that what will happen is the null values will never override the valid values. So what will happen, if it is coming as null, then it is 90, then it will automatically be reduced by some percentage. Okay, that will be internal completely. So let's say that is 30 or 40. Then finally when the merge happens, this will be compared with this. So who will be the survivor? This current record will be the survivor. But if I click on this, apply null values, what will happen is this degradation will not happen. This degradation will not happen. As a result, what could happen is, if the trust of the source system is more, then that will override the current value. So in this example, what will happen is this will be the final result. Okay, this will be the final result if you enable this. So the conclusion of this option is you are giving more weightage to null values using, if you select this option. Now, when do we need this option? Like in which business scenario? In certain cases, we need to update valid values with null values. For example, I'll give a very simple example. Let's say Sunil has a let's say phone number, fax number. Sunil has a certain fax number like this. Okay. So later, after 1 month or so, Sunil, because of some financial reason or anything, he could not afford this fax machine or whatever it is connection, so he had to disconnect this particular thing. So it means that my record should be updated with null. This fax number should not be stored anymore, because if you store the fax number, there's no point in storing a fax number that is not working anymore. So in these cases, you would like to update this with null. And in some cases you don't want to update it with null. Okay, so that will depend from the situation to situation. The business analyst is going to decide which is the, for which column you need to select apply null values or not. Okay, so that is a very simple thing. And GBID is very simple. GBID is global business identifier. Okay, global global business identifier. Global business identifier means in US SSN number, you can say that SSN number is a global business identifier. Why global business identifier? Because SSN number can be used to identify records globally. For example, let's say there is a company called as Amazon.com, okay, and there is a company called as eBay.com. So let's say there is a customer named Sunil and he has 111111. Okay, let's say this is his eBay, this is his SSN number. Now there is another customer called as Sunil K and he's there with 11111, the same SSN number. So because SSN number is provided by the government of United States, so SSN number will definitely be unique. It means that the customer with this SSN number in Amazon.com and the customer with this with this SSN number in eBay.com must be the same customer. Okay, so that is called as a global identifier. See, this SSN number example that I gave you. This is a global identifier, GBID, in across the country, or you can say even across the world. You can say across the globe. Okay, so in India, like for example, your passport number. So passport number is GBID across the country, not across the globe. Okay. Similarly, let's say your employee ID. Your employee ID is a GBID inside the company. Because if you go outside, then if your ID is 1011, then in another company it could be different. So this is a GBID inside the organization. Now, what is the advantage of GBID? The advantage of GBID is, I already gave you an example. You can use the key to identify record across different systems. For example, there is a data warehouse team, there's a BI team, there's a CRM team. So let's say there is one key that is a global identifier. Let's say fact ID. So let's say fact ID is the global identifier in here, here, here. So you can use the fact ID to identify records globally across multiple systems. So that is the objective of this. Okay, and if you mark, it really does not matter if you mark this option or you do not mark this option. This is just an addition to it's just a part of metadata extension. So if you mark it as a global identifier, then downstream applications will know about this and they can use this particular column. Let's say if I mark this column as a global identifier, so what will happen? The downstream application will know that yes, this column is a global identifier and they can use it more effectively. So that's the objective of making it GBID. And it really does not matter if I select this column or if I do not select this column, because that does not have any impact to the existing style of data load or nothing. It really does not have. It's just extension of your metadata. That's all. Okay. See, putable is related to SIF. You will not understand now, but I'll tell you. Putable means normally the system columns that you see here. For example, lot of system columns. See, these are, what is the column here? Interaction ID, for example. Okay, interaction ID. Some of the system columns you can insert data into the system columns. Okay, using SIF. Normally you should not insert any data to the system columns, but using SIF, there are certain system columns that you can insert data to. So if you want to do that, then you have to mark it here. But anyway, just remember that this option is used for SIF because you'll get confused. I'm removing this anyway. Okay, so that completes this properties part. Now we'll quickly go to the systems and trust, and we'll try to create this source systems. Because in order to proceed with this, okay, so in order to proceed with staging tables, we must have created the source systems, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. The first thing you can see here, this is an empty repository. So when I log in here, you can see you have two columns here, two things here. Systems and trust. You have system and you have trust. Okay. First, let's close this and let's talk about this system. This system, it's a registration. Okay, so if you want to, let's say if you want to participate in a seminar or so, then you have to register yourself. So similarly, in order to integrate a source system with MDM, the first step that is done is registration. Okay, so source system registration. This is the first step that is done to proceed with MDM integration. For example, if you have 10 source systems that you want to integrate with your MDM. Integrate means you want to pull the data from those source systems and put it into your base object. That is what if you want to do, then the prerequisite is you must have created a source system, because that's mandatory. And you can see that already one source system is created by default. I did not create it, and the name is admin, and the primary key, that is this is used internally, that is sys0 admin. Okay, first of all, let me create other source systems, then I'll tell you what is the difference between the admin and other source systems. So to create a source systems, what you need to do is, see, first let's talk about this telecom. So in this telecom, you have these source systems, CKR, MLO, MCCS. You later go through this. Okay, try to understand what is this source systems. This CKR is a legacy source system. Legacy means these are based on old systems, 40, 50 years old systems. So almost all the companies you will see, they will have at least one legacy system, and that will be the most important system. A lot of people are trying to migrate from legacy systems into new grid based cloud computing systems, but that's not that easy. So in any corporation, you will see that you will have at least one legacy system. And if we are talking about a telecom sector, then you will see that you will have many types of services. Based on the services, you will have many source systems. For example, in prepaid, postpaid, in the MLO, MCCS, they contain data for prepaid, postpaid. And this is from the Chamber of Commerce. This is similar to the Duns and Bradstreet. This is a use case of a European telecom sector company. Okay, so this is a use case for European. I'll write it. Okay, and this is US style company. Okay, so in US, this is Duns and Bradstreet. That's the reference source system, and this is called as Chamber of Commerce. So this is nothing but I will talk about this later, but just remember that this is a reference source systems that contains all the reference information, like let's say you have total in United States, let's say you have 10,000 companies. So this Duns and Bradstreet or this Chamber of Commerce, they contain a registration of all the companies. That is how many employees are there, what is the size of the company, what's the total volume, what's the sales, and all those details it will contain. And this is nothing but fiber cable. You might be aware that internet comes up with two options. Fiber is the latest edition since last 5-7 years. So you have separate data for fiber. Similarly for internet also, you will see there is a different database. This is again a reference source system. Okay, like lookup for country, gender, address type, those static information. This is the enterprise data warehouse. Enterprise data warehouse means the single data warehouse for a whole enterprise. A full enterprise, that's the single data warehouse. Because I have also seen data warehouses that is I mean, I have seen more than one data warehouse also in companies. So we are not talking about that. We are talking about an enterprise data warehouse that has everything. And then one OCRM, this is just a CRM application. Okay. And the interface mode is, this all are in batch mode. It means ETL will be used, and near real time. Near real time and real time are same. Just remember that as of now. There's a difference, but you assume that they are same. So this interface is near real time for CKR and for one CRM. Normally for CRM applications, right? You will always see that the CRM applications has to be integrated in real time, because that's the requirement, because the CRM applications will be used by business extensively and they need real-time data. They cannot wait for 1 day, 2 days. Okay, so they need real-time data. So this is mandatory. This might be needed, might not be needed. So that's a different thing. This is the primary key for all the things, and the interface details means how the data is coming in here. That is, this will be through a TIBCO EAI interface, this will be through a Siebel interface, and this is a Teradata database, Teradata data warehouse. These are full files from flat files. These are also flat files but delta files, and this is an Oracle database. Okay, so this is the rough structure of the source systems. Now we will try to map these source systems into our MDM. Okay, so how do we do it is, you just right click here and you add a system. So CKR, then you give the description. You can simply copy paste this, or you can simply copy paste this. Okay, so click OK, then you'll see that the source system is created. So similarly, you need to create all these source system. I'm just creating 2 source systems, remaining you create all the source systems because it's very easy, so I'm not doing it. So it is MLO, and then normally you should give the description like this, prepaid customers, and then you also should give this. Okay, data.
Sunil, I don't have this Excel sheet. I mean, I don't know whether it is shared with the
I've
other
shared with
folks.
everyone. I think I shared it twice with a lot of people. I mean, because a lot of people in last class also, Vamsi told me that he did not get it, so I shared it.
Sunil, I still didn't get it, Sunil. I don't know. I'm sorry to mention this. I don't know.
I shared
didn't
it
get
via
that.
Google Drive. I think it's coming to your spam box or something, because I shared it via Google Drive.
Yeah, even
Google
check my spam.
Drive.
I mean,
Sunil, I mean, I'll give you my Gmail ID. I mean, I don't know. So for some of them, I don't have access, and I requested access. Did you get the access request?
access request, I have actually sent it to your another ID, but you're trying to access from another ID, separate ID. That's why you need access. Otherwise, you don't need any access for Google Drive.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Normally, if uh, let's say if I share with one ID, right? If you use that ID, then you do not need any access. Directly, you have edit permission. For example, if you see this, I already am giving edit permissions.
Oh, I have given you the Yahoo ID, and that is not letting me in for some of them. So it is asking for Google ID. That's where Gmail. That's where I have given the Gmail.
Okay, fine. I'll share it with your Gmail ID today. Okay, because you can see I can edit permission here. It means you can also edit, but do not read it. But
Yeah.
you can edit. I think accidentally someone deleted these recorded sessions actually. I had to re-upload it. This was 4 or 5 days back, I think. These sessions were
Sunil,
accidentally.
is this the one which you shared the location? Is this the one?
Yeah.
I never got it, Sunil. I
Okay,
don't
okay,
know.
fine. I'll share it again. That's fine. I'll share it after the call. So what you do is you create the remaining systems. Okay, so you create the remaining system. Now let's talk about uh, what is this. See, first remember that the name that we give here, okay, the name that we give here might not be the same as the source name. For example, just try to understand that this name that we give here is for understanding of MDM, for Informatica MDM's internal use. So if this is, let's say, in the source name might be Maranello. Let's say this is the source name. Okay, let's say this is the source name. Actual source name, this is the source name, but I am renaming it to MLO because I want to recognize this source as MLO in my system. You understand, right? What I'm trying to say is this may not be exactly same as, might not be exactly same as the exact source system name. You can keep this anything, but normally try to make it same as your source system so that there is no confusion. And you can see this is in black color, all this, but this is in blue color. It's a special source system that is called as admin. So normally why Informatica has given this is any manual changes, if you do any manual changes, for example, I can go here in the data manager and I can create a master record. I can do that. Okay. And in one merge manager, I can edit records also. So I can do a lot of things. And if I do any manual operation, then you will see that it will be treated as if it is coming from the admin source system. So admin is reserved for internal use. You will understand more about admin when we actually do the, when I actually create a record, then I'll show you that it will be treated as if it is coming from the admin source system. And normally the admin source system should always have the highest level of trust, because we do not want any other source system to override this. Okay, so that is about system. You add all the system. So before you integrate a new source systems into MDM, the first step is to actually create a source system here, and you need to create the staging tables later, where you are going to actually map the data. And now coming to trust, you can see only party table I am able to see here. Okay, I cannot see this address and contact table because I have not selected this. I need to go here, columns I need to go, then I need to enable the trust. Now here I'm blindly enabling all the trust, but normally you will get a list of all the columns for which you need to enable the trust. And similarly, let's say for contact also, I'll go here and I'll enable the.
Is that specified in that Excel which we using, to which columns the trust has to be?
No, here that is not important. It's not
Okay.
needed, so I'm not specifying. But yes, if you want to
Okay.
see, then from a live project, I'll show you. Where is? Okay. This is called as a trust sheet. This is from a project. Actually, it's a project document. These are many source systems. For every source systems, you need to configure the trust, right? For example, let's say I give it here. Okay, so you'll get all the details. Like you just need to create it. I mean, this max, min, decay period. Once let me explain, then I'll again come back to here. Okay, so you will get this list because, for example, these are all the columns that is mentioned. Then you need to only enable the trust for these columns, okay, because this is what is mentioned in this Excel sheet. So you only need to choose these columns. If the column is not there in this list, you do not choose that column. So that is very simple. Okay, now we go to the actual place, that is systems and trust, where we configure the trust. You can see it's now showing me the address table, the contact table, and in party table it's just showing 2 columns because I enabled it only for 2 columns. Okay, so now let's talk about trust. So trust, you can see it is enabled only for, let's talk about first this party table. In this party table you have 2 columns for which trust is enabled, and if I click on this column, you can see it's by default it is showing me admin. I cannot see any other column name here. Okay, I cannot see any other what you can say. The thing here is you have to create a staging table. Once you create a staging table, then you will see that the source system is listed automatically here. For example, let's see, I'll quickly create a staging table because later I'll tell you how to do that. Sorry, you go here, you right click, say add staging table. I'm just creating one, but again, I'll tell you later again, so no need to worry. So once I create a staging table and I go here again, okay, you can see the CKR source system, it is showing here. So you might have guessed already that the only way of showing the source system here is actually to create a staging table. When you create a staging table, you will see that automatically this is created here. Okay, so if I want, let's say I want to add another source system here, then there is no way of directly doing it here. Okay, this all options are disabled. The only way is to create a staging table, then automatically this source system is listed here. Okay, then what you need to do is you will get an Excel sheet like this. Okay, for example, this, for this particular column name, Okay, this is the let's say this is a table name. Let me remove this all, and let's say I choose party table. That's the main table. So for a party table, let's say I choose a column as let me pick an important column. Yeah, okay, let me pick this column. You can see there are many source systems. Okay, and you can see the trust. There are two values here. You need to take the latest one. Okay, so for example, these source systems AUCG, what you need to do is max score is 90, this is 40, this is 36, this is M, this is uh, linear. So all you need to just take this and you need to mention it here. Okay, so you'll get everything from the business. This is a document, this is a trust document. So but first of all, let's try to understand what is this maximum, minimum, unit, decay and all that. Okay, so see, let's say I put this as 90 and I put this as 80. So as of now, whatever trust you know, right? We are talking about that trust, that is 90/80. So just first of all, just assume that there is nothing called as minimum. First assume that there is nothing called as minimum. Assume that when we talk about trust, let's say that is the this is the trust that we are talking about, 90/80, this figure. Okay, so it means there is a Sunil that is coming from admin and a Sunil is coming from CKR. Then the Sunil from admin will be considered because the Sunil from CKR will be considered because CKR has 90 and this has 80. So that is very simple. Now, what is this maximum minimum? What is this maximum minimum? Let's try to understand with a very simple practical example. Yeah, what is one second? There's a question. I did not understand the relation between staging table and the trust. Why trust is showing as source only after? Yeah, because see, trust is for only those columns that has been mapped. Okay, so what Informatica has done is this, for example, if I go here and if I click on this initials, I can see only the admin source system. You can see only the admin source system. But if I click here, you can see the CKR source system. So basically, for the columns, for the trust is a mechanism for ensuring that the best version survives. And the best of what? Best among the source systems that contribute data. Let's say one source system does not contribute data to this particular name. Let's say there is a source system called as MCCS. Okay, and MCCS, let's say it does not contribute data to name because let's say they do not have any value for name. Then why do I want to configure trust or something like that for MCCS source system in the name? That's no point, right? So that is why basically Informatica, what they have done is they have they have related this with the staging table. So when you create a staging table, then automatically it is created here. It means, see, what is the meaning of creating a staging table? Why do you create a staging table? We create a staging table because we want to map data from what? From a particular source system, because staging table is source wise. Source wise means it is specific for every source system. So when you create a staging table, it means we are mapping data from that source system. So that is why this trust and this staging table, Informatica has related the two concepts together. Okay, so if you create a staging table, automatically you will see that this will be added up here. If you do not create, you will see this is not added. And again, I'm telling you, you cannot, even if you want manually, you cannot add anything here. Okay, now let's go back to the example. Sorry. So let's talk about this. Let's say it's a very simple example. Let's say Sunil. Okay, Sunil is a person let's say that's me, and I am a Bank of America. Let's say I'm a customer in Bank of America, and I have opened a savings account. Sunil has opened a savings account in Bank of America, and let's say I for 1 year I don't use that account. For one complete year, I'm not going to, let's say I'm not using that account. Okay, so and this is one scenario. For 2 years, 2 consecutive years, I'm not using that account, and for 3 consecutive years I'm not using the account, and let's say for 5 consecutive years I'm not using the account. Now in some bank the rule is after 5 years or something, they are going to, what they will do, they will deactivate your account completely. Even if you have some money, if there are no transactions, they will deactivate it. So just understand that in here, let's say Sunil created an account today. Let's say Sunil created an account today, and this is the situation after 1 year, after 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. At the end of 5th year, account will be deactivated. So account is deactivated. It means, what is the meaning of account getting deactivated? In business terms, it means that that particular customer is not a valued customer anymore. That is why someone would deactivate your account. Why would someone want to lose business? Because they know that they do not have any business with you anymore, because you are not interested in their products anymore, because since last 5 years you have not done any transaction. Okay, so just try to understand. Today if I create an account, I'm a very valued customer, not a valued customer, very highly valued customer, I would say. I'm a highly valued customer because I just opened an account, and let's say I put some $1,000 euros into that, or any money into that. Or even if I do not put any money, still I'm a valued customer. But after 1 year, you will see that my customership, uh, my customership, or you can say my customer relationship actually degrades. Because why? Because I have not done any transaction since last 1 year. So normally, for in business, if you do transactions regularly, in any business, in banking, telecom, or anything, if you do transactions regularly, then normally you are a valued customer. But let's say if you do not do any transactions, then you are literally a less valued customer. So you are seeing, gradually you can see that initially when I create the first day, I'm a very highly valued customer, and gradually if I do not see, this is the case only if I do not do any transactions. If I do any transaction, then again I'll be treated as highly valued customer. Okay, so gradually in here, my customer relationship degrades. That is, bank thinks that I am I'm good, but I'm not really highly valued, because maybe I'm interested, but I'm also interested in other banks. So bank might think like that. And in here, the customer relationship degrades even more. So what I'm trying to say with this example is, if no transaction happens, no transaction happened to a certain record, then what will happen? The with time, okay, if no transaction happened to a certain record, then with time the customer relationship degrades actually, or you can say the value of the customer degrades. Okay, so this is a real practical example. Now this practical example will try to recreate in this thing. We'll try to understand how to implement this particular logic in here. The logic here is very simple. For example, see, from a source system, let's say the initial score is 90. Then what I'll do, I'll make this as 40, and I'll say uh, year 5. So the meaning here is, in an interval of 5 year, how much decays? 5 year. So in an interval of 5 years, the trust will degrade from 90 to 40. You understand, right? In an interval of 5 years, the trust will degrade from 90 to 40. Why it will degrade? Because if there is no change to this record, and let's say if I do any transactions immediately, then what will happen? Again, it will take the maximum score, that is the highest score. So let's say what happened. So 90 is the score, and let's say I do not touch this record for 2 years, then it will degrade it to, let's say, 70. Then if I do any transactions, then immediately it will take the maximum value again, and again this mechanism will start. The logic on how it degrades is actually nothing but this graph. For example, linear means this will degrade in a linear manner, okay, and this slow initial, uh, rapid later, this is nothing but a parabolic, or you can say concave or convex graph. Okay, you can change it, but normally we do not use this mechanism. Normally you use the linear also. Linear, you can see that from this, this is linear, and normally the decay period is also, it's never in, it will always be in month. Okay, it will never be in a year, it will always be in month, and the total number of month can be either like 36 months or 48 months, depends upon organization to organization. So if you have any doubts, then you ask me. And see, and remember, let's say I don't want to degrade, I don't want this degrade mechanism to work. What I'll do is I'll make the maximum and the minimum as the same. So what will happen is this score is never going to degrade. The score 90 will remain even after 100 years. If you come, if you check the system, you will see that the, even if there are no transactions, the trust will not degrade. And if you make this as 20, let's say, then what will happen in an interval of, let's say I make this as 24. So in an interval of 24 months, the score will degrade from 90 to 20. Okay, so that is the overall concept. I told you how and on what basis this is calculated. So the business analyst is going to do this calculation. On what basis he will calculate, I'll tell you on what basis normally they do it. The basis is, you can see this is sys 0. Sys 0, you can see the trust, how much it is. The trust is how much? 100. 100 means that's the maximum. Okay, so I told you, right, for admin source systems, normally it will be given the highest source system. Then you see the next is 90. 90, you can see there are many source systems which has the same trust score. So what will happen if two source systems have the same trust score? For example, if this is also 90, if this is 90 and this is 90, then what will happen? You understand, right? If this is 90 and this is 90, and I'm getting one record name as Sunil here, and here I'm getting another record as Sunil K, then who is going to survive? That will depend upon the last update date, or you can say in cross reference there is a column called as src underscore lud, that is source last update date. So if the trust is same, then whichever record is having the latest src lud, latest src underscore lud will be picked. Okay, see, this is an interview question, so you can remember this. Okay, in many interviews you will see this question. This is a common question. Okay, if the trust is same, then based on src lud, src lud is a column in cross reference table. Okay, so this is the mechanism of trust. Okay, with that we'll finish the class. Okay, well, and we'll have some doubt. We'll have a doubt session quickly. If you have any doubts, you can go ahead. I already have some doubts. Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's, see, you can change the. Yeah, another thing is important. There's a good question. Can we change it? For example, if I make it as 90 here, later after 2 years or something, I feel that this system is not that good. Okay, so I want to reduce it to 60. Yeah, can I do this? Yes, we can do this, but that's not that easy. The reason is, you just try to understand. The reason is, it's not all about just changing the scores here. Once you change the score, see, this is how it works. It's not all about changing the score, because let's say there is a record called as CKR. One second. CKR, there's a record called as CKR, and you have Sunil, and the trust is, let's say, 70, and you have MLO source system, and this is a record Sunil K, and the trust is, let's say, 90. Okay, so when these two record merges, the survivor MDM, it will become Sunil K, and the trust will for that thing will be 90. Now let's say what I do is later I change this trust to 60. So I go here in this tool and I change this to 60. Okay, now what will happen? Immediately you will see that this will not change. But normally what should have happened? What should have happened is this was previously the survivor, but now you just check the scores. This is 70, this is 60. So who should be the survivor? This record should be the survivor. Correct? So this is not going to happen automatically. There are jobs that you need to run. Okay, BO and recalculate, execute recalculate base object and execute recalculate BVT. There are two jobs. You just remember the name of the jobs. Where is the SIF guide? Okay. These are the, because this can also be, yeah, this not can, but this is also an interview question. So you just remember these are the two jobs: execute batch, recalculate BO, and execute batch, recalculate BVT. These are the two jobs that you need to run after changing the trust. Why? In order to make sure that here it is reflected to Sunil, because Sunil is now should be the survivor. So frankly speaking, this is not an easy job, because when you run this, you have to run it for all the records. So that will take long time. Okay, so you should do it carefully, and there are a lot of things that are involved in doing it. Okay, and next question is, on a single column trust is set by source and admin. So which will take precedency? See, admin is a special source system. It doesn't mean that admin will always win. If I make this as 90 and if I make this as 60, so what will happen? CKR system will always win. And if this is 90-90 both, then I already told you. So based on source last update date, okay, that is the last update date, whichever is the latest record will be picked if the trust is same. Okay, so that's the logic. If you have any more doubts, then you quickly
Hey,
can go
Sunil,
ahead.
quick question.
Yeah.
Quick question, Sunil. When we talked about profiling in the past, you said ask me later. I think this is the time you wanted to discuss. So what the question was is, profiling is important, but I did ask you that in data warehouse, I didn't have to deal with a lot of profiling, and you said we will look at it later. So what I'm looking for is, how we schedule trust. What will be the architect's or data analyst point of view while he is wanting to put trust? Can you give a little insight and get back to that Excel and
Okay,
tell
okay,
us so
fine,
we
fine.
can
So,
understand?
see, let's see. Tomorrow, what we'll do? It's an important topic, but if we'll go this, then we'll move out of track. One second. Before we start, lookup schema here. What I'll do is tomorrow I'll complete these staging tables. Once I complete these staging tables, then I'll tell you the profiling. What is the importance and how actually these scores are calculated using profiling. Okay.
Okay, Sunil. Okay.
Okay. Okay, guys. Anyone has any questions? No questions. Okay, guys. Then I'll share the documents. Okay, I remember that. So I'll share the documents with you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Sunil.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Sunil. Like I'm not able to connect to this VPN actually. I have installed Hamachi,